The first preliminary issue you have to ask yourself is this: was Mr. Iglesias authorized to issue the February 4th, 2022 determination that we're here over later? But we know that come 1st of January 2022, he was the county administrator for Newberry County. He was not the zoning administrator for the city of Georgetown. He was a county administrator. He was not your zoning administrator. He was not. He legally couldn't be. The Constitution says you can't have dual office holding. And I ask yourself, with that background in mind, to consider everything you're considering today, because you're considering two things. You're considering putting 60-some people out of work minimum, but number two, the legality of what you're doing and the impact it'll have on the city in the long run. I thought it would be important, because we do have the right to call witnesses, to have before us the mayor and the city administrator to answer the questions I've asked right here. And I asked for subpoenas to be issued. And I was not within the 10-day limit. But the chair still has discretion to issue such a subpoena. And the chair chose not to. And I don't see the mayor and I don't see the city administrator here to answer these questions that have been posed.
Which chair refused to do the subpoena?
Ms. Graves.
We didn't know anything about that.
The request for the subpoena was made 49 hours prior to the time of the meeting. For them to request that subpoena 49 hours before this meeting, when it's clearly stated in the requirements for the meeting that they have to have 10 days notice to be subpoenaed, I did deny that request.
But Madam Chairman, in all due respect, shouldn't you talk to us, the board, to make that decision? I mean, this is a critical issue. And it's critical, and those those people he mentioned, the city manager, Dr. Udisi, and others, are vital to this decision, I would think. We need to have all of the information from all parties involved, because they were a part of this agreement.
I'm trying my best to conduct this meeting and everything connected with it by the rules and regulations that we're supposed to be under. To make an exception for that was not the way I anticipate running this meeting. And they asked the chairman to answer it, and I answered it.
Well, I just think that a decision like that, we on the board just like you are, and we should be made aware of that issue, I would think.
I just feel as though my 60-plus employees I have, plus people who are waiting to get back on, deserved their mayor and their city administrator to show up.
As Mr. Brown pointed out, the matter before the Board of Zoning Appeals this evening is a zoning administrator appeal. In other words, a decision was made February 4th, 2022. Liberty has decided to throw the red flag if this was an NFL game, and now the play is under review before the Board of Zoning Appeals.
My letter dated March 11th, 2022 is not a new zoning administrator opinion, but rather simply material I provided in support of my new position here with the city. From my letter, I spoke to 2171.5 and stated the melt shop and rolling mill are a part of the overall use of a steel mill that produces the billet, melts it down, rolls it up to produce the coils of wire. Therefore, I do not consider them accessory, but included in this steel mill use. The applicant stated in their appeal that force majeure, as allowed in the REDD under section 21716, is their justification for not being considered an abandonment of the non-conforming use. This section further states that, as in section 21713, shall begin upon legal notification by the property owner or representative thereof. Legal notice that the use was changing and put in a care and maintenance regime and not a steel mill occurred in the April 22, 2020 letter from the Liberty Steel Chief Executive, Mr. Gregory Jones, to the city administrators. As stated in my zoning determination letter and the staff report to BZA, I considered the April 22, 2020 date as the initial date to start the clock counting of the period of abandonment of the non-conforming steel mill use. As per code, the clock started counting for a period of more than 365 consecutive days of more than 365 days in any 2 consecutive years. Would be from this first notice, April 22, 2020.
How can Mr. Iglesias override his boss, Dr. Udisi, on a decision that she made, that council was aware of, and that they all agreed to? Mayor Giroux, Dr. Udisi have been here for years. They are both very aware, along with other sitting council members, except for those that just recently came onto council. They are very well aware of the issue with the steel mill. So the time period and them showing up to be here and answer questions, to me, is just a mere technicality that was used so that they could not be here.
I'm the wife of a steel mill worker. And not only are we looking at these 65 people that work in the steel mill, you're looking at the families that they support and that we depend on them, and the insurance and the retirement. I'm just appalled because I love Georgetown, and to see all this going on is a disgrace, because the steel mill gives our people decent jobs with great insurance and great retirement plans, and we get to live a decent life and not have to drive 2 hours to some plant that you worry your husband on the way to work in the morning is going to hit a deer or fall asleep. No, your husband can go right down the road to work in Georgetown and come home.
There is a conflict of interest with this board. The current administration, Councilman Clemens, I believe is Ms. Graves' husband, she should recuse herself from the vote. And I believe Mr. Bryant is Mayor J. Rose's nephew, he should recuse himself from the vote, just as the county council president had to recuse himself because his wife was on the board of Tylen's Hospital.
We have had a ruling by the South Carolina Ethics Commission on that. We knew that it might come up, and the South Carolina Ethics Commission reviewed both of us and said that there was no conflict of interest, and we have documents for the records to be submitted to the records of this meeting. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. When that steel mill goes down, so does the West End. Because then they're going to raise the taxes, and then the West End is going to become like Hilton Head, Paul's Island, Beaufort. This is not Branson, this is Georgetown. Branson, Missouri is a great resort, been there.
And we have to get away from our ethical dilemmas. Even though you said that the Ethics Commission agreed that you all are okay, it still looks fishy and it smells fishy. So if it looks and smells fishy, it probably is.
It's tough to stand up in front of a group of steel mill workers and oppose what they're doing, because America loves steel mill workers. I mean, you guys are the backbone of this country. You work harder than anybody. But that steel mill is outdated, like 25 years. The lifespan of steel mills has been dead for 25 years. Let me go ahead. I'm not in the steel mill business. What I'm saying is that most steel mills are active for about 40 years. So, no.
Please let him speak.
I appreciate, I'm just talking about what I'm hopeful for this board to do. Because there's just so much noise going on here. When there's two simple issues. Did the steel mill close down for over a year? No one in here has disputed that the fact that the steel mill's been closed for almost 2 years. It's like quibbling over letters, but everybody here knows the steel mill shut down in April 2020, and the steel mill opened back up right before February of 2022.
What is COVID?
COVID, I have a business, No business on Front Street shut down during COVID. COVID's been difficult for everyone. I'm only saying this as a person that moved to Georgetown and look at the potential of Georgetown and everything else that goes along with it.
I mean, it's just obvious that the city wants to shut the mill down. They want to develop that property. That's what this is about. Yes, sir. I mean, this really is about, rather not to open at that time, it's really about, they ready to develop over there by that port over there. And this is serious. It really, really is. This is what this is about. And these people's jobs shouldn't be dependent on that. They deserve the work.
I'm making a motion to continue, to get more information.
Yes.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Raise your right hand. That's 4. All opposed? The motion carries. We'll continue.